Hey, are you ready for a fight? Are you ready for a fight? Are you ready for the fight? The fight between Team High Wing and Team Low Wing. Ooh, it's going to be a good one today. Well, it won't be that bad. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today I'm going to be talking about which one's better, Cessna 150, Piper Tomahawk from a basement. Okay, and yeah, this is actually a request. I was trying to think about uh, how to handle this request because one of the regulars in our chat here, Rich, he was a few episodes ago was talking about he threw out the suggestion of Piper versus Cessna, Cessna versus Piper, something like that for a topic, and I was like, well, that's kind of like I'm thinking in my head. It's like, well, that's like Ford versus Chevy, or something like that. So, but I figured I would narrow it down to something that I knew a little bit about, and what a lot of people, when they first start learning how to fly, everyone started shopping for an airplane. Man, it's just what you do. And then you say, "Oh, these are pretty cheap: Cessna 150, 152, or a Piper Tomahawk." And oh, those are cheap. And I've flown both of those airplanes. I've spent a lot more time in a Tomahawk than I have in a Cessna 150, but I think I've flown them enough to know the difference between the two, and they're very similar. But we're gonna go over today. So I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody, a prospective airplane buyer, that's like, maybe you just got your license and you're thinking about, maybe buying a time builder for commercial training. That can be advantageous. It's actually probably pretty good right now because airplane prices, they've been going up for the last little while, like the prices on everything. But reasoning for that is that, especially Cessna 150s, 152s, like any of the little, just your little single engine airplanes that are used for flight training, or a lot of baby boomers are retiring and they got their big pension money. Now they got their time, they got their money. They can go out and buy a plane and go flying around and enjoy their retirement. But so those old guys they're snapping up all these planes and driving the prices up. So if you did, buy something as a time builder, that's not bad. I don't think you'll lose too much on that. But you got to remember too, with airplanes, it's like, if I don't know if you've ever owned a boat, but apparently I never have. But people tell me same thing. You're gonna get, oh, this is cheap, and then I need a new $2,000 propeller. Oh, just got a flat tire. Oh, that's $400 for a flat tire. Or, it could be anything. Oh, I got a cracked exhaust manifold. Oh, $2,000 for a new one. Yeah. And that could be a substantial percentage of the price of the airplane. Oh, the radio crapped out on it. Oh no, got to buy a new radio. So we're going to go over, I'm going to kind of discuss the differences between what I know between the Cessna 150 and the Piper PA 38 Tomahawk. So, and I'm not going to get into the whole history of that, but I'll just tell you from a pilot's perspective, from a flight instructor's perspective, and just, a guy that's been hanging out at the airport for a little while and seeing guys that have bought these planes and what they have to say. So I'll just give you kind of that perspective. So okay, so let's imagine. Put yourself. Let's imagine ourselves. We're gonna go for a flight. What do we do? First, we got to go out to the airport, right? So now, or if you got a Cessna 150, you can have that on floats too. You can go out to the cottage. But anyways, we'll assume we're flying from an airport here. Now, okay, but what kind of airport? So it's like, okay, now we'll say it's a regular airport with a paved runway. That's what most people fly out from. So, okay, we're going out to the airport. Here we go. Now, am I keeping this airplane in a hangar or am I keeping it outside? So how much you want to pay for a hangar? How much you want to, it's cheaper to just tie it down outside. That's considerations too. So it's like, okay, well, we'll go there. Let's do the walk around on the airplane. So just or do the pre-flight inspection. Okay, now if you have the Tomahawk and the Cessna 150, if you might have wing covers on there because it's the winter time here in Canada, you might want to keep some frost off of it or snow off of your plane. Okay, and you can buy wing covers for either airplane. They're all pretty equal there. And then, okay, you're just going to go check it out. Now, if you want to check the gas on your Cessna 150, it's a high wing airplane. So you need a little ladder. Okay. That's one other little thing. Is that much of a consideration? Maybe yes, maybe no. But it's like, I personally, it's like, okay, I kind of prefer to. I kind of prefer to just on a low wing airplane, just pop open the cap, take a look, dipstick in there, check the oil. It's about the same on both. So it's like, oh, okay, pre-flight inspection, maybe a little bit easier on the Tomahawk. And another thing there too about the Tomahawk is that when you're doing your pre-flight inspection, you open up the whole cowling. You can inspect the entire engine. On your Cessna 150, you just pop open the little dipstick to check your oil, and there's just a little door there. And so you're not really seeing, is there a loose wire in there? Is there, I've had it where, a squirrel's gone up and put little nuts underneath there and stuff. So you can inspect it a little bit better. Tomahawk comes out just a bit ahead on that for the pre-flight inspection. Okay, and now you're going to go for a flight. Okay, so I hop into the plane. How does it fit? That's one of the things is you're getting in there. If you're a really, really big guy, you're over 6 feet, over 250 pounds. Well, these planes aren't for you. They're pretty tight. So you can see, and you'll read about this if you're thinking about buying one of these airplanes. You'll see that all the write-ups on the internet they're pretty accurate. Like the Tomahawk is just a little bit wider in the cockpit than the Cessna 150, so you got a little bit more shoulder room there, and you're not rubbing butts or legs with your passenger. So because there's a little console there in between the seats with the Tomahawk, so Tomahawk comes out a little bit over there too. And then, oh, hey, Wrench, here we go. I'm doing sort of your half of your request today. So, okay, so now we're sitting in the plane, and yeah, the Cessna. Okay, now when I go into a Cessna 150, I always find like, okay, I'm an instructor, so I want to keep my feet off the controls. But I'm like a little over 6 feet. So for me to purposely keep my feet off the rudder pedals, it's kind of tight. So, but now in the Piper Tomahawk, you got lots of leg room there, tons of leg room. In the Cessna 150, not so much leg room, but in the Tomahawk too, you have just a little less headroom. You might have to kind of squish over a little bit. Cessna 150, you got lots of headroom, so it's a trade-off there. Those, I'd say that's tied. As far as like headroom, legroom, see which one fits for you the best. And then you also got to consider too that what's your mission for your airplane. Like, so everyone says, if you're saying what's the best airplane, it's kind of like, well, what's the best car? What are you using it for? And so as far as that goes, if you're going to be doing a pretty long flights, maybe you're doing like a 3-hour leg, and you're kind of cramped up this way or that way, that could be a consideration. But usually most people when they get their airplanes, you don't really see them. The plan is always to get, I'm going to buy this plane, then I can do all these trips and everything. But then your schedules don't work out with your buddies or whatever, and you end up just kind of taking your plane up around by yourself a lot of the time. That's what most people do. Or yeah, you take up the wife after that. She doesn't care. Then you go to the airport and get away from her. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's why I was looking at these two-seater planes. All right, what was I talking about there? Okay, so the size, the dimensions of it. Okay. Then you're gonna fire it up. What engine are you firing up? Well, there's okay, Tomahawks. They all have a Lycoming engine, and then the Cessna 150, 152. They started off with Continental engines, I think. And then the kind of later models they went to Lycoming, and that's one of those things too. Which engine do you prefer? The mechanics that I've talked to, they seem to find that the Lycomings are more reliable than the Continentals, but on the other hand, I've flown this one Cessna 150. It was an oldie. It's in 1959, and it just started like a champ and ran smooth. Like I mean, and it had a Continental engine in it. So I mean, that's kind of I don't know. I think it's really a matter on your aircraft engines. They're all certified. They're all pretty safe. It's just like, okay, if you're buying it off someone, were they beating on the engine? Were they doing cold starts on it? Things like that. Up here where it's a little bit colder, if they have some sort of like a engine heater on it, they call it a brand name is Tanis. It's a Tanis heater. You can plug it in. It's like a block heater for your airplane. Or some people have like a sticky pad that's underneath the oil pan, and then that heats things up too. So if that's already in the airplane, or if it's always been hangared, you probably they probably won't be doing any cold starts. So and then okay, so but basically, if the engine's not beat on, they're pretty good. So, okay, so you're firing up your engine. Now you're going to go taxi out. Okay, here we are, we're taxiing out. And now, how wide is your runway? Is it a big airport, little airport? What are your taxiways like? So, this is what I'm thinking about with there's a significant difference in the wheelbase of the between the Cessna 150 and the Piper Tomahawk. Piper Tomahawk has a really, really wide wheelbase on it for such a little airplane, but that makes it nice and stable if you're taxiing and it's a windy condition. Like you don't really feel that. Whoa, the wind's gonna get under here and flip me over like a little light 152. You might have to kind of be a little bit better on the controls for that. But you should be doing that anyways on any little airplane for your proper taxi inputs. But I would say so. That's one thing. If you're taking off and landing on a very narrow runway, there's quite a bit of a difference there in the landing gear, the wheelbase there, the width of it. So if it's narrow, or it's a grass field and you're right next to the beans or the soybeans or something like that, you don't want the wheel to catch the beans and wheel you in there. So yeah, so that's a consideration there, as far as taxiing, takeoff. Now, as far as the performance when you're flying up in the air, here we go, we're going to go take off now. It's similar. The As far as your takeoff, landing distances, speeds, your cruise speed, even when you're in the air, they're using around five. The older ones, I think, were probably 5 gallons an hour versus 6 gallons an hour. But then, do you always how old is the engine? Do you always lean the mixture exactly right for to get that optimum 6 or 5.5 gallons per hour? It's in the ballpark. It's pretty close. Same with your cruising speed and everything like that. As far as the like baggage capacity, it's 100 pounds in the Tomahawk, and depending on your model of Cessna 150, it's right around 100 pounds on that too. So I don't know who'd be carrying 100 pounds worth of luggage around there, but oh, hey, Michelle. I might do a flyby on your house one of these days. Look for me buzzing the farm. Not in a legal fashion, of course, with the proper distance from the barn, etc. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna go flying. Yeah, check out Michelle's For the Soul art by Michelle Plunkett. You can check out her website and buy some stuff off of her when she's making her art. Okay, and then so we're flying around. Everything's about the same for that. And okay, coming into land, same landing distances. All right. Okay, I don't know. So far, I'm being pretty equal about everything here. But there's a few other little things there that now, i- if you're going to be flying around, just like you're buying this plane, and you're going to be using it to, just go boot out for your $100 hamburger, which is probably 200 or 300 now. And then, that's pretty cool. Now, are you going to be using this plane for any type of instruction? Well, you figure the Piper Tomahawk was designed for instruction. It's like by instructors and engineers for instructors. And then the Cessna 150, they call it the Cessna 150 commuter. The engineers designed that to be a commuter. The thinking back in the 50s was that, oh, everyone's just gonna have their own personal airplane. It'll fly to work and stuff. Like that was kind of fly to the business meeting, have a 3 martini lunch and fly home. It's the 50s. Hey, but yeah, so uh, that's what the planes are kind of designed for two different things. And I'd say that oh yeah, that's another thing too about the doors. Cessna doors, it's kind of like a car door. You just slam it shut. Piper Tomahawk, you kind of have to place the door where you want, and then do your door latch and your overhead latch. There's two latches on that. And those doors are pretty flimsy. And everybody gets in those for the first time, and they go wham, and they slam it, and you can bust this little hook on the top. Look for cracks if you're buying one of those. The little latch for the I don't know, the top latch hook. That can be troublesome for people smashing those things. Oh, hey, Dustin, welcome to the show. And the doors in the Tomahawk, they from day one, they never did seal exactly right. So if you're flying in a very, I don't know, say somewhere like Florida where you can be flying around and it's a nice day, but all of a sudden you hit, okay, here's a cloud. You got to go underneath this rain. It's a real heavy rain, but you're still safe to fly underneath it. You're going to get soaked in a Tomahawk. The seals just never work from day one. And the older the planes get, the worse the seals are. So that means that you're going to get rained on. Like if you're flying through the rain, you're going to get wet. Could be annoying. If it's cold out, they also leak a lot of cold air. So, see now where I used to work, we had a cutoff of what was our temperature? -10. I forget. It was like either -10 or -15 Celsius, and then we wouldn't fly the plane. First of all, because it's so cold in the cockpit, but then we also found that below at a really cold temperature, I think it was -10 or -15, that the engine oil would never heat up enough to get up to full operating temperature. And then so now you're operating at maybe flying somewhere and it's not at operating temperature. So what kind of wear and tear are you doing on it? So we had to put a limitation on the cold weather for that for the Tomahawk. Now for the Cessna 150, they have these little cold weather fronts you put in there and it keeps the engine nice and warm. And so the temperature variability on the Cessna 150 is better than the Tomahawk. You also have that high wing. If it's really hot out for a Cessna 150, you're in the shade because the wings on top. Whereas if you're in the Tomahawk, it's got a bubble canopy, which is cool because you can imagine you're like a fighter pilot or something like that with great visibility, but you're you're getting pretty sunburnt in the summertime, and it can get pretty hot. And then you're flying around. I used to call it the solar heater because we'd be flying around. Hey, this is great! What a nice day for flying. And then the sun goes down a little bit, or it gets cloudy, and all of a sudden, oh, it's cold in here. So, yeah, it's Tomahawk. You can put up. You got a 1 hour flight for your training, no big deal. But if you do, I know some guys that froze their butts off on it, like a night cross country in those Tomahawks. They're just shaking. And, I can't feel my hands. Time to land the plane. Like, oh, dude, thanks for bringing it back, but wear some long johns next time. So, anyways, so that would be that's something else to consider there. And what's another one? Oh, another one there too is that with Tomahawks, I don't think I've ever read it anywhere online, but you heard it here first on the Super Pilotish channel. is that the if you keep the tires, the main tires on the Tomahawk inflated exactly to what the specifications are, it's only a matter of time before the tube in there will slip a little bit, and you're gonna get a flat tire. It's just a matter of time. We used to go through, I don't know how many tires I've had. Oh, geez, 4, 5, 6 flat tires in those planes. So it's just now that's because we used to fly them at commercially maintained standards, which means you can't deviate from it. If the book says this is your how many psi of air you got to have in there, that's it. Anything above that, you're now you're not in compliance with the regulations. Your insurance is no longer valid. You're flying in, it's illegal for you to fly that. That's what they say. But our mechanics that we're calling around to different places, and everybody, all the mechanics they dealt with, it was like, just stick another 10 psi in there, another 5, 10 psi in there. They never go flat. But now it's like, I don't recommend doing that, but that's kind of the common knowledge out there. So if you own your own plane, maybe you got a gauge that isn't that accurate, and oops, it went over by 5 psi. But yeah, so that's another consideration. I've never heard of that with the any of the Cessna products. So, all right. So here we go. What do we got? We're at about 20 minutes worth of this. Oh, and then the cost too. I was also looking at the cost between the Cessna 150 and the Piper Tomahawk. Any type of research you do at all, you'll come to the same conclusion that right now, I don't know, kind of a decent ones. They're going around about 50,000 US, but that's all dependent too on, how good do you want, how new is the paint, the interior. The biggest consideration there is the hours that are left on the engine till it's time for the overhaul. And so really the higher the price, it'd be much better to have like a plane that it's got some faded paint and the interior is ripped a little bit. You can fix that yourself as a pilot, but it's got a brand new engine in it, or it's got 50 hours on the engine, and it's like, oh, okay. And you pay a little bit more, it doesn't look as great, but the most important thing is the engine. Although looking cool is important too. And then if you can manage to get some newer radios in there, that's good too, because radios, if you buy them for your plane, you might buy like a $50,000 GPS, all installed or something like that. Well, maybe not 50, 20. Probably, because I know someone was looking for a high-end GPS, and I think it was around 20 grand. But yeah, I know guys that have put 100 grand worth of radios in their plane, 50,000, 40,000, like, and then the depreciation on that is like instantly like 90%. Hey, I just put in $20,000 radios. Okay, you can ask another 2,000 for the plane. So if you can buy someone else's problem and depreciation, that's a good thing. You can get your hands on that. So yeah, so what else was I going to say there? Cost, yeah, it's all a decent one. Yeah, I would say is right around 50,000 US. But you can see, but what everyone does is when they're first learning how to fly, they say, oh, that's a Piper Tomahawk. It's a 25 grand. It's like, yeah, in another 100 hours, the engine's going to blow up on it. You got to get an overhaul right away. So, or you need the prop inspected, or you need this or that or that. And then it hasn't flown in 10 years, so airplanes like to fly, just like cars like to drive. It's like anything that's been sitting for a long time, you're going to have a whole heap of troubles. And so here we go. So which one is better? We're going to go. Are we going to have the Cessna 150? Is that the better one? Tomahawk is the better one. In my opinion, I would have to say I'm going with the engineers on this one. Okay. Tomahawk was designed to be a flight trainer. It's a fantastic flight trainer. Cessna 150 commuter was designed to be a commuter. It's a great commuter. So it's like, depending on what you want to do it for. I'd say even for flight training too, if you had to come down to it, like a mix of the both. I think the Cessna 150. I hate to admit it because I really love the Tomahawk, but if it fits you, Cessna 150, I think is still that much better. I think it wins by a nose. And I hate to say that because I really like Pipers, but objectively, you got to do that. Oh, and then another thing too, a little follow up from my show yesterday, or not yesterday, on Wednesday. I did a coin toss to see if the WestJet pilots would be going on strike, and my coin was correct. Of course, the magical coin. Yeah, they have a tentative agreement now at WestJet. No one's going to be locked out or going on strike or anything. So, congratulations, all you guys, management and pilots over at WestJet, for using your pilot abilities to solve a problem with minimal disruption to the passengers. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be WestJet pilots that can pull that off. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, and then there's less like hatred and everything. Everything should be cool there now. All right, so that's good. Good on management. Good on the pilots there at WestJet. All right, I'll take a look here in the comments, and it's almost time to shut her down. We'll see if there's any real heavy questions. We'll see if Wrench is flaming me here. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Wrench is also talking about how he flew with two daughters in a 152. They made a child seat. Yeah, I knew a guy. He had like the kid seat in the back of a Cessna 152. Yeah, and or his was a Cessna 150. It was a 1960. Oh, was it 1963? I think it had the square tail on it, and yeah, he had the little seat in the back, and he said, "Yeah, you can take." How did he put it? I can fit in. He was a bigger kind of guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I could take me and two kids in there and a mouthful of gas." So, anyways, yeah, they do have that little kid seat. Oh, and I forget what they call that too. See, I know a guy. He has a 1959 Cessna 150. It's got just like the fastback on it. There's no window there. But the thing is, they came out with like the rear window. Was it? They had all these cool terms. I think it was called OmniVision. You can get the OmniVision option, which means a back window, so you can see behind you. These pilots and engineers had all these cool 1950s terms. Ooh, my Cessna 150 commuter has the OmniVision option. Here we go. Okay. Wrench's instructor was concerned that he needed to fly both because the T-tail was really different to control, especially on the runway. I don't know. It's if you're flying just kind of normally, you really don't notice that much difference. But if you're doing, short field takeoffs and landings, yeah, you got to kind of watch out a little bit. So there we go. All right, cool. And yeah, that's right. Michelle says, have an amazing long weekend. Yeah, so it's May 2-4. It's official beginning of the summer in Canada here, Victoria Day weekend. So happy Victoria Day, everybody out there. Or that's coming up. And oh yeah, that reminds me, time to change the air filter in my furnace. Yeah, I gotta do that. See, I was always trying to kind of time my air filter in my furnace, air conditioning unit, and sometimes you forget and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's pretty filthy. That's not good. So yeah, so now I've just made it a point that okay, I'm going to change my air filter in my furnace. May 2-4 this weekend. Thanks for the reminder, Michelle. And then I do it again in Labor Day in September. That way, it's all good for air circulation for the air conditioner in the summer now. And in September, it'll be good for air circulation for the winter for the heat. So anyways, there we go. Is the furnace in the basement nearby? Yeah, it's right over there. So anyways, I don't know. I could do a video on that, but it'd be pretty boring. Here, take out your dirty filter. Here, put it back in. So anyways, Yeah, that's about it. So today is Friday. So that means I'll be back on Monday, which is actually Victoria Day at noon because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And we'll just kind of shut her down. Thanks everybody for showing up here. And if you're Canadian, you can show up hungover, watch me on Monday at noon. So there we go. All right. Yeah, that's about it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.